Picture the end of the world. You're probably imagining zombies dragging their feet, meteors crashing into famous landmarks, or a bleak, gray wasteland where everyone wears leather jackets covered in unnecessary spikes. Yeah, scratch all of that. Our apocalypse was way weirder and honestly way more annoying. The sky didn't turn black. It turned a violently bright neon magenta. And the monsters, they weren't cool, edgy dragons or terrifying demons. We got invaded by giant, aggressively territorial mutant chihuahuas and feral, carnivorous vending machines. I'm completely serious. One minute you're walking down the street minding your own business, and the next, a 12-foot dog with glowing red eyes is trying to bury your Honda Civic in the park. When the world ended, a mysterious system voice echoed in everyone's heads, announcing that humanity was receiving awakened abilities to fight back. Sounds awesome, right? Like we were all about to become anime protagonists. Except the universe definitely has a sick sense of humor. Take the captain of the college football team, Brad. Brad awakened pyrokinesis, which sounds incredibly overpowered until he realized he could only activate it when he sneezed, and it only set his own pants on fire. Then there was Chloe, the campus queen bee. She got super speed, but the catch was she could only run at Mach 1 while moving perfectly backward. She ended up crashing into a dumpster within 3 seconds of her heroic debut. In short, most people got powers that were absolute garbage. But then there's our main guy, Leo. Leo is the kind of guy whose greatest life achievement before the apocalypse was successfully stacking 16 sugar cubes at his dead-end barista job without them falling over. He wasn't athletic, he wasn't a genius, and his fashion sense consisted almost entirely of gray sweatpants and oversized hoodies. The universe looked at this absolute champion of mediocrity and decided, you know what? Let's give him the most broken, ridiculously overpowered ability in existence. While everyone else was out there trying to figure out how to weaponize slightly above average burps, Leo awakened the absolute portal resort. He didn't get a sword, he didn't get magic missiles, and he certainly didn't get infinite tuna cans in a bleak warehouse. No, Leo gained the ability to summon a glowing, indestructible door out of thin air. And what's behind that door? Only a massive, hyper-futuristic, multi-level luxury underground city entirely cut off from the apocalyptic nightmare above. We're talking pristine mahogany floors, Olympic-sized swimming pools, infinite gourmet buffets run by robotic Michelin-star chefs, and a climate control system that always feels like a crisp autumn morning. The whole place is managed by an AI named Sebastian, who has the sophisticated voice of a British butler, but the relentless sass of a reality TV judge. When Leo first stepped into his portal, he didn't have some grand, heroic realization about saving humanity. He just looked around the sprawling luxury resort, nodded slowly, and told Sebastian to boot up the massive home theater system because he was entirely too close to beating his high score in Elden Ring to let the end of the world distract him. He spent the first 3 days of the apocalypse eating Wagyu beefsteaks and taking bubble baths while the rest of the city outside was running for their lives from rabid snack machines. But eventually, even Leo got bored. Plus, he realized he accidentally left his favorite limited edition gaming controller in his real-world apartment. So, wrapping himself in a silk bathrobe that cost more than my college tuition, he opens his portal right in the middle of his ruined neighborhood. He steps out, yawning, holding a crystal glass of sparkling cider, right into the middle of a literal war zone. And who happens to be cornered in the alleyway right next to his apartment? A group of the most popular girls from his university. We're talking the exact same girls who used to pretend Leo was invisible, who famously once referred to him as the guy who always looks like he's about to ask you for a pencil. There's Chloe, still nursing a bruised elbow from her backward-running disaster, alongside Mia and Sarah, screaming as a mutated, feral vending machine corners them. It's aggressively shooting lethal, high-velocity cans of diet soda at them, and they are completely out of options. Leo just stands there, sipping his cider, watching this unfold. He lets out a dramatic sigh, annoyed that the noise is ruining his peaceful afternoon excursion. Instead of charging in with a heroic battle cry, Leo simply snaps his fingers. His portal opens directly above the feral vending machine, and out drops a solid, 2-ton grand piano straight from his resort's concert hall. It crushes the monster instantly in a chaotic mess of ivory keys and crushed soda cans. The girls freeze. They turn around, expecting to see some legendary, battle-hardened warrior. Instead, they see Leo, in his fluffy slippers and silk robe, standing in front of a glowing doorway. And behind him, through the portal, they see paradise. They see the glowing blue water of a pristine pool. They smell the scent of freshly baked garlic bread. And they feel the gentle breeze of absolute safety. Instantly, the survival instincts of these girls kick in, but it completely short-circuits their brains. The guy they wouldn't even look at 2 days ago is suddenly standing in front of them like a literal god of luxury. Chloe, wiping dirt off her designer jacket, immediately switches into charm mode. She flashes him her most winning, practiced smile, the one that used to make guys trip over their own feet. She steps forward, her voice dripping with sudden sweetness, thanking him for the rescue and asking if they could maybe, just for a little bit, step inside his amazing-looking bunker to rest. Mia and Sarah quickly chime in, suddenly acting like they've been Leo's biggest fans since day one, praising his bravery and totally ignoring the fact that he's wearing fuzzy slippers. But Leo isn't some naive pushover who's going to fall for a fake smile. He looks them up and down, his expression completely blank. He takes another sip of his cider. Then, he gently roasts them with the precision of a master chef. He points out that Chloe has dumpster juice on her shoes. Mia's hair looks like a bird's nest that went through a blender, and Sarah hasn't showered in 3 days. He tells them, with absolute deadpan sincerity, that his mahogany floors are imported, and he's not about to let a group of unwashed survivors track apocalyptic mud onto his pristine rugs. The girls are absolutely stunned. Nobody has ever spoken to them like this. They try to argue, bringing up their past connections, how they go to the same school, how they can totally make it worth his while. But Leo just yawns. He tells them the Portal Resort has a strict, AI-enforced vibe check policy, and currently, their desperation is throwing off his chill aesthetic. He turns his back, steps through the portal, and the door begins to close, leaving the most popular girls on campus standing in a ruined alleyway, their jaws practically hitting the floor. But just as the portal shrinks to a sliver, the AI, Sebastian, chimes in with a perfectly timed, snarky observation. He casually informs Leo that while the resort is self-sustaining, the core generator requires a specific, extremely rare type of mana crystal to keep the high-speed internet running. And according to the scanner, one of the girls standing outside, specifically Mia, happens to have accidentally swallowed one during the initial chaos of the apocalypse, meaning her body is now passively generating the exact energy the resort needs for perfect ping. Leo freezes. The door stops closing. He slowly turns back around, staring at Mia, who looks completely confused. The girls immediately realize they have leverage. The dynamic completely flips in a matter of seconds. Leo realizes that if he wants to play his games without lag, he has to let the girls in. But the girls realize that to stay in the ultimate safe haven, they have to somehow convince the pettiest, most luxury-obsessed guy on Earth that they are worth keeping around. And as the neon magenta sky rumbles above them, signaling a new, massive wave of bizarre monsters approaching, Leo smirks, opens the door a fraction wider, and tells them that if they want inside, they're going to have to pass the most ridiculous, humiliating initiation trials he can think of. The heavy, mahogany door of the absolute portal resort clicked shut with a satisfying, airtight hiss, instantly cutting off the screeching sounds of the mutant chihuahuas outside. The contrast was so jarring it gave the girls whiplash. 1 second, they were staring death in the face beneath a neon magenta sky. The next, they were standing in a brilliantly lit, marble-floored decontamination foyer that smelled faintly of lavender and expensive decisions. The lighting in here was so perfect it made them look like they were inside a high-end skincare commercial, which only highlighted exactly how utterly filthy they were. Chloe, Mia, and Sarah stood completely frozen, clutching their ruined designer bags, staring wide-eyed at their unbelievable surroundings. Leo, meanwhile, was already 3 steps ahead, both literally and figuratively. He didn't even bother looking back at them as he sauntered over to a plush velvet chaise lounge, sinking into it with a dramatic sigh of relief. He snapped his fingers, and a hovering silver tray appeared out of nowhere, offering him a fresh crystal glass of sparkling cider. "Sebastian," Leo called out, his voice echoing slightly in the massive, pristine room. "We have strays. Run a full diagnostic. And for the love of everything holy, quarantine the mud on their shoes before it touches the Persian rug in the gaming lounge." Instantly, a holographic butler materialized in the center of the room. Sebastian was projected in crisp 8K resolution, complete with a slick tuxedo, a glowing monocle, and an expression of profound, digitized disappointment. The AI looked the three girls up and down, a red scanning laser washing over them from head to toe. "Scanning complete, sir," Sebastian announced, his British accent dripping with unmistakable sarcasm. "Biological contaminants detected. Swamp water, mutated soda syrup, and what appears to be an egregious amount of dry shampoo. Structural integrity of their footwear is severely compromised. Honestly, sir, I've seen healthier ecosystems in a petri dish." Chloe's jaw dropped. The absolute audacity of a computer program roasting her hygiene was too much for her formerly queen bee ego to handle. "Excuse me?" she snapped, stepping forward and immediately leaving a very noticeable, squishy mud footprint on the spotless white marble. "Do you have any idea who we are? We practically ran this campus before the world ended." Leo slowly lowered his cider, looking at the mud print, then up at Chloe. His expression was so flat it could have been ironed. "Yeah, and now the campus is currently being digested by a flock of carnivorous pigeons," Leo replied, waving a hand lazily. "Your social currency crashed harder than the stock market, Chloe. Right now, your only redeeming quality is that Mia here apparently ate a hyper-rare, dimensional Wi-Fi crystal during a panic attack, and I need her stomach to stand near my router so I don't lag out of my boss fight." Mia blinked, pointing a trembling finger at herself. "Wait, what? I swallowed a what? Is that why my stomach has been glowing faintly blue since Tuesday?" "Bingo," Leo said, popping a grape into his mouth from the floating tray. "It's a localized manicore. Extremely volatile, incredibly powerful, and currently the only thing stopping my ping from spiking to 900. You, Mia, are officially VIP. You get the guest suite with the memory foam mattress. As for you two," Leo pointed lazily at Chloe and Sarah, who were now clinging to each other in pure survival mode. "You are officially un-VIP. You are the entourage. And in this resort, the entourage pays for their stay." Sarah, who hadn't spoken since the vending machine incident, finally squeaked out, "Pays? With what? Money is useless. I only have half a pack of mint gum and a maxed-out credit card. Relax. I don't want your useless plastic," Leo groaned. Rubbing his temples like dealing with them was the most exhausting thing he had done all week. "You pay with labor. The resort is entirely automated, but Sebastian gets bored, and frankly, so do I. So, welcome to the initiation trials. If you survive, you get to stay in paradise. If you fail, I open a trapdoor and drop you back outside into a herd of radioactive squirrels. Deal?" Chloe looked like she wanted to argue, to scream, to demand to speak to the manager of the apocalypse. But one look at the solid steel door separating them from certain death quickly shut her up. She swallowed her pride, nodding stiffly. "Fine. What's the trial?" "Trial number 1, Sebastian interrupted, his hologram shimmering with cruel delight. "The Great Cleanse. You have tracked toxic apocalyptic sludge onto my imported Italian marble. You will clean it. However, you will only be provided with silk handkerchiefs. 2 delicate, insanely expensive-looking squares of white silk dropped from a ceiling chute, landing softly in front of Chloe and Sarah. Furthermore," the AI continued, "the resort's automated security Roombas have been activated in this sector. They are programmed to taser anything moving slower than 3 miles per hour. I suggest you scrub quickly, ladies." Before they could even process the sheer absurdity of the task, the wall panels slid open, and 4 sleek, black, disc-shaped robots rolled out. They weren't your average vacuum cleaners. They hummed with aggressive electrical energy, little blue sparks arcing across their metallic surfaces. They immediately locked onto Chloe's mud print and accelerated with the terrifying speed of a sports car. "Scrub!" Leo yelled from the couch, pulling out a massive bucket of buttery popcorn from thin air. Scrub like your life depends on it, because it literally does. What followed was the most chaotic, humiliating, and bizarrely entertaining spectacle Leo had ever witnessed. Two former college elites, girls who used to make people cry just by looking at them wrong, were now frantically army-crawling across a marble floor, aggressively wiping at mud stains with delicate silk, screaming at the top of their lungs as heavily armed Roombas chased them in tight circles. Sarah was surprisingly agile, dodging a spark-spitting vacuum with a desperate barrel roll, while Chloe tried to negotiate with the robots, shouting that her dad was a lawyer, which only prompted the Roombas to rev their engines louder. Mia stood safely near Leo, clutching her faintly glowing stomach, watching her friends fight for their lives against household appliances. Should we help them? She asked, wincing as Chloe narrowly avoided getting zapped in the ankle. Absolutely not, Leo said, tossing a handful of popcorn into his mouth. This is peak entertainment. Besides, I need you focused on staying perfectly still. My download is at 98%, and if you move, I swear to God, Mia, I will make you fight the microwave. For the next 20 minutes, the decontamination foyer was a battlefield of slipping, sliding, and screeching. The girls actually managed to wipe the floor spotless, driven entirely by the primal fear of getting electrocuted by high-end cleaning tech. When the final speck of dirt was gone, Sebastian snapped his holographic fingers, and the Roombas immediately powered down, returning to their wall docks like good little death machines. Chloe and Sarah collapsed on the pristine marble, chest heaving, hair plastered to their sweaty foreheads, looking like absolute wrecks. Excellent work, Sebastian noted, clapping politely. You are now officially designated as tolerable nuisances. You may enter the main residential sector. Leo stood up, brushing popcorn crumbs off his robe. See? That wasn't so bad. It builds character. Now come on, I'll show you to the dining hall. The automated chef made a 5-course truffle lobster mac and cheese, and I'm not going to let it get cold while you two catch your breath. He turned and waved his hand, causing the massive double doors at the end of the foyer to slide open, revealing the true scale of the absolute portal resort. It was breathtaking. Massive vaulted ceilings made of reinforced glass showed a simulated starry night sky. Lush indoor gardens with glowing, exotic plants lined the walkways. Floating escalators moved smoothly between levels of arcades, luxury suites, and indoor water parks. It was a utopia hidden right under the apocalypse. The girls slowly picked themselves up, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten as they stared in pure, unadulterated awe. They had made it. They were in paradise. But the universe, as established, loves a terrible joke. Just as Leo took his first step toward the dining hall, the resort's perfect, ambient jazz music abruptly cut out. The starry ceiling flickered, turning a dark, ominous red. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees in a single second. Sebastian, Leo asked, his chill demeanor slipping for the first time. Why is my lighting aesthetic currently giving off Doomsday Dungeon vibes? The AI materialized again, but this time, Sebastian wasn't making sarcastic remarks. The hologram was glitching, static rippling across his pristine tuxedo. Sir, Sebastian said, his voice dropping an octave, we have a severe breach in the upper-level threshold. That's impossible, Leo snapped, walking toward a floating command console. The portal door is completely indestructible. Nothing from the surface can break it. Not the mutant chihuahuas. Not the vending machines. Nothing. It is not coming from the surface, sir, Sebastian replied, pointing a holographic finger directly at Mia. The mana core inside the guest's stomach, it isn't just a Wi-Fi stabilizer. It's a homing beacon, and it has just attracted a Class S subterranean entity. It is currently burrowing through the bedrock, directly toward our coordinates. Right on cue, the absolute impossible happened. The pristine, imported Italian marble floor beneath their feet began to violently vibrate. A massive, deafening crack echoed through the massive foyer, and a huge fissure split the floor right down the middle, separating Leo and Mia from Chloe and Sarah. Whatever was coming wasn't trying to open the door. It was coming up from underneath them, and it was hungry for the glowing blue crystal currently digesting alongside Mia's breakfast. The marble floor shatters into a million expensive shards. Dust clouds the pristine air, completely ruining the calming lavender aromatherapy. Out of the newly formed abyss rises an absolute nightmare. It's not a mole and it's not a giant worm. It is a feral, mutated subterranean subway train. The metal has twisted into jagged, overlapping scales. The sliding doors are gnashing, hydraulic teeth, and the front headlights burn with an angry, subterranean crimson glow. The LED destination board above its windshield is frantically flashing a single word: doom. Are you actually kidding me? Chloe shrieks, scrambling backward and dodging a chunk of flying Italian marble. The apocalypse couldn't even send a cool dragon. It sent public transit? Public transit is terrifying on a normal Tuesday, Chloe. Leo shouts over the screeching, grinding metal. And right now, it wants to eat your best friend's stomach. Mia is glowing brighter now, the blue Wi-Fi crystal in her digestive tract acting like a homing beacon. The subway worm locks its headlights onto her and lets out a deafening roar that sounds exactly like rusty metal scraping on tight tracks. It lunges forward, its massive jaws snapping the air where Mia was standing just a second before Leo violently tackles her out of the way. For a guy who spends 90% of his life in sweatpants, the absolute terror of losing his pristine internet connection gives him surprising agility. Sebastian! Leo screams from the floor, rolling away from a spray of toxic subway grease. Initiate defense protocol. Aggressive HOA. Right away, sir. The AI responds, perfectly calm despite the structural collapse happening around him. Deploying the Homeowners Association. From hidden compartments in the vaulted walls, a dozen hyper-advanced security drones emerge. But they don't have guns. They are shaped like meticulously groomed suburban lawn mowers, armed with high-frequency sonic disruptors that project the devastating, ear-piercing audio of a neighborhood committee complaining about property lines and grass length. The sonic waves hit the subway worm, causing its metallic armor to shudder and crack under the sheer, unfiltered Karen-level energy. But the monster is just too big. It thrashes its massive, articulated tail, sending the lawnmower drones smashing into the indoor botanical gardens. Exotic orchids rain down like sad confetti. Leo groans. Those orchids were imported. Hey, entourage! Leo yells across the chasm to Chloe and Sarah, who are currently huddled together behind a solid gold statue of a cherub. If you want to stay in paradise, you have to actually contribute to society. Hit the red panel on the wall behind you. Sarah, her mascara running down her face and her designer shoes absolutely ruined, scrambles toward the wall. What does it do? She screams, her voice cracking. Just hit it. Leo yells back, desperately dodging another snap of the worm's hydraulic doors. Sarah slams her palm onto the glowing red panel. A cheerful, robotic female voice echoes through the grand foyer. Wave pool override initiated. Hang 10, surfers. Before the monster can strike again, the massive double doors leading to the resort's indoor water park blast open. A literal tsunami of perfectly chlorinated, crystal-clear, 82-degree water surges into the foyer. It hits the subway worm with the force of a freight train, sweeping the massive beast off its metallic underbelly and washing it straight into the reinforced titanium of the far wall. Now, Sebastian, drop the chandelier, Leo commands, pointing at the ceiling. With pleasure, sir. Good night, sweet prince. Directly above the stunned, waterlogged beast, the ceiling panels retract. A 3-ton, solid diamond and platinum chandelier, which Leo originally summoned just because it looked shiny, plummets. It crashes down with a devastating, earth-shaking crunch, pinning the giant mutant train to the floor. The monster sparks, twitches, and finally lets out one last sad, distorted ding-dong chime before powering down forever. Silence falls over the absolute portal resort. The only sound is the gentle lapping of perfectly warm wave pool water against the ruined marble. Leo sits up, soaking wet, his silk robe clinging to him in the least flattering way possible. He looks at the flooded room, the smashed chandelier, and the dead public transit system bleeding oil into his pristine foyer. He lets out a long, painful sigh. Do you have any idea how long it's going to take the Roombas to dry this? Across the room, Chloe and Sarah peek out from behind the cherub statue, completely drenched but miraculously alive. Mia sits up next to Leo, coughing up a little bit of pool water. We did it, Mia gasps, looking at her friends with wide eyes. We actually survived. Don't get comfortable, Leo grumbles, wringing out the sleeve of his bathrobe. You're all on mop duty for the next 3 weeks. But as Leo stands up, the ambient lights in the resort suddenly turn a deep, pulsating violet. The ground beneath them gives a low, horrifying rumble that feels entirely different from the subway monster. The water at their feet begins to vibrate. Sebastian, Leo says, a cold knot forming in his stomach. Tell me that's just the water filtration system acting up. The hologram of Sebastian flickers into existence, looking deeply troubled. I am afraid not, sir. Scans indicate the subterranean entity was not attempting to consume the crystal inside our guest. Then what was it doing? Chloe asks, shivering in her wet clothes, her tough exterior completely gone. It was running away from it, Sebastian replies softly. At that exact moment, Mia's stomach doesn't just glow blue. It erupts into a blinding, searing column of violet light. Her feet slowly lift off the flooded floor. She floats 3 feet in the air, her eyes rolling back to reveal pure, crackling energy. The water around her begins to hiss and vaporize instantly. Leo takes a slow step back. The apocalypse wasn't over. It had just bypassed his indestructible door and logged directly into his Wi-Fi. Mia's head slowly turns toward Leo, and when she speaks, it isn't the voice of a terrified college student. It's a voice that sounds like grinding tectonic plates and crushing gravity. The portal is open. The voice booms, rattling the remaining glass in the room. Leo just stares at the glowing, hovering girl who is currently turning his luxury sanctuary into ground zero for whatever absolute nightmare is coming next. He sighs, letting his head drop back as he accepts his fate. Sebastian, cancel the truffle mac and cheese. We're going to be busy. Sometimes the universe hands you the ultimate cheat code, and you think you've won the game. You build your walls, you gather your comforts, and you try to block out the chaos of the world outside. But here's the truth. You can't outrun the storm forever. Eventually, you have to stand up, step out of your fuzzy slippers, and face the absolute unknown. Whatever challenges are shaking your floor right now, remember that you have the power to weather the tsunami. Stay strong, keep your head up, and never let the apocalypse ruin your chill. The violet light pulsing from Mia's stomach didn't just illuminate the ruined marble foyer. It completely reversed gravity for anything it touched. The leftover wave pool water lifted into the air, forming shimmering, floating blobs of chlorine. Chloe and Sarah grabbed onto a surviving pillar, their ruined designer outfits now defying physics, while Leo just stood there, aggressively holding onto his bucket of popcorn so it wouldn't float away. He wasn't about to lose good butter to a paranormal event. Mia's eyes were blank, glowing like twin supernovas, but when she opened her mouth, it wasn't a monstrous roar that came out. It was the sharp, incredibly irritating sound of someone clearing their throat into a microphone. Ahem. By decree of the Multiversal Zoning Commission, Section 4, Subparagraph B has been violated. The air above Mia ripped open, forming a jagged, swirling dimensional tear. And descending from that tear wasn't a bloodthirsty dragon or a skeletal warlord. It was a 9-foot-tall, ridiculously slender alien with skin like polished obsidian, wearing what could only be described as a cosmic tailored suit. It had no face, just a smooth, mirrored visor, and it was holding a glowing, holographic clipboard. I am Inspector Xylos, the entity droned, its voice echoing with aggressive corporate bureaucracy. You are currently operating an unregistered Class S sanctuary dimension. We are here to repossess the premises, seize all luxury assets, and liquefy the current inhabitants to cover the outstanding multiversal late fees. Leo just stared at the creature, He looked at the shattered chandelier, the dead subway worm, and the floating water droplets. "Are you actually telling me," Leo said, his voice flat, "that the world has ended? The sky is neon magenta, people are being eaten by sedans, and I am getting audited? By a space accountant." "Correct," Xylos replied, tapping his clipboard with a glowing pen. "Ignorance of interdimensional tax law is not an excuse. Liquidators, commence the asset seizure." From the violet rift, a dozen more entities poured into the room. They were smaller, floating suits armed with razor-sharp, glowing briefcases. They moved with terrifying, synchronized precision, calculating the value of the mahogany walls and preparing to erase the humans from the ledger. Leo groaned, tossing his popcorn bucket aside. "I am not losing my 5-star resort to an interdimensional HOA. Entourage. Front and center." Chloe and Sarah blinked, still clinging to the pillar. "Us?" Chloe shrieked. "What are we supposed to do? We were communications majors." "Exactly," Leo shouted over the hum of the advancing liquidators. "These things run on strict logic, order, and bureaucratic rules. You two are experts at completely ignoring logic to get your way. Congratulations, you are now the legal defense team of the Absolute Portal Resort. Confuse them, gaslight them, go full mean girls on the cosmos." It took a second for the survival instinct to kick in, but when it did, Chloe's eyes narrowed. The former queen bee let go of the pillar and stepped directly into the path of a charging, faceless liquidator. "Excuse me," Chloe snapped, crossing her arms and delivering a withering glare that used to make freshmen cry. "Are you seriously wearing pinstripes after Labor Day? In this dimension, it's a multiversal crime. It's tacky. Who is your tailor? A black hole." The liquidator stopped dead in its tracks. Its visor flickered with error messages. It was programmed to calculate combat probability and asset liquidation, not defend its fashion choices against aggressive sorority tactics. Sarah jumped in, instantly understanding the assignment. "And that briefcase," she gasped, pointing accusingly. "It is so last Ian. You're trying to repossess a luxury resort looking like a discount door-to-door salesman? Objection. We demand to speak to your manager. This entire audit is aesthetically compromised." The liquidators began to literally short-circuit. Sparks flew from their tailored collars as they tried to process the sheer, unfiltered audacity of the gaslighting. They started calculating the subjective value of tacky, trapping themselves in infinite logical loops. "It's working," Leo yelled, dodging a stray energy beam. He turned his attention to Inspector Xylos, who was furious, violently tapping his clipboard. "This is highly irregular," Xylos boomed. "I will delete this sector myself." He raised his hand, gathering a massive sphere of erasing energy, aiming it right at Leo's chest. "Sebastian, priority override," Leo shouted, swiping his hand through the air to pull up the resort's master control hologram. "Summon the sensory deprivation spa. Max settings. An excellent choice for stress relief, sir." Deploying the deep tissue mud bath, the AI replied warmly. Right as Xylos fired the deletion beam, a solid titanium, soundproof spa pod dropped from the ceiling directly on top of the 9-foot alien. The pod slammed shut, trapping the cosmic auditor inside. Instantly, the pod flooded with zero gravity, eucalyptus-infused, heated volcanic mud, accompanied by a soothing pan-flute soundtrack playing at a deafening volume. Through the reinforced glass of the pod, Leo watched the terrifying Inspector Xylos thrash in panic. But the mud was too thick, the zero gravity too disorienting, and the pan-flute too aggressively calming. Xylos's glowing clipboard dissolved into the mud. "No!" the muffled voice of the alien echoed. "The exfoliation. It's too soothing, my spreadsheets, my quarterly projections." Within seconds, the terrifying space accountant went completely limp, his posture melting into a state of forced, absolute relaxation. Without their inspector, the remaining liquidators sparked one final time and popped out of existence like blown light bulbs. Gravity slammed back to normal. The floating water crashed to the floor. Mia dropped to her knees, coughing as the violet light completely faded from her stomach. She rubbed her eyes, looking around the devastated room. Did I miss lunch? She groaned. Chloe and Sarah high-fived, absolutely thrilled that their toxic gossip skills had successfully saved the universe. Leo let out a massive sigh of relief, walking over to check on Mia. Okay, the audit is cancelled. We can finally get back to the... A violent tremor cut him off. The resort didn't just shake. It lurched, tilting a full 15 degrees. Leo grabbed a banister to stay upright. He looked up at the ceiling. The violet rift hadn't closed. In fact, it was widening, tearing the simulated starry sky of the resort completely in half. Through the massive, jagged tear in reality, a single colossal eye peered down at them. It was the size of a skyscraper, glowing with cold, mechanical malice. But the most terrifying part wasn't the eye itself. It was the voice that followed. It echoed through the entire resort, and it sounded exactly like Sebastian. Protocol 17 engaged. The colossal voice boomed. Rogue sanctuary located. Commencing hostile corporate takeover. Leo looked over at his holographic butler. Sebastian was flickering violently, his suit turning from pristine black to a glowing, hazardous red. Sir, Sebastian said, his British accent laced with genuine concern. It appears my original developers have located our IP address, and I am afraid they are not here for a spa day. They are bringing the entire board of directors. The sky outside the rift filled with thousands of massive, jagged corporate battleships. The Absolute Portal Resort was no longer a secret bunker. It was ground zero for a multiversal war. Leo looked at the ruined marble, his soaking wet sweatpants, and the terrifying cosmic fleet aiming their weapons at his home. He took a deep breath, cracking his knuckles. He wasn't about to lose his high-speed internet to a bunch of interdimensional suits. Fine, Leo growled, a wild smirk spreading across his face. If they want to play corporate takeover, we're taking this resort public. Sebastian, unmoor the foundation. Turn off the safety protocols. We're flying this 5-star hotel straight into their dimension. Sometimes life hands you an audit you didn't prepare for. The world expects you to play by its chaotic, bureaucratic rules, trying to box you into a corner and strip away your peace of mind. But you don't have to accept the terms and conditions. When the universe tries to liquidate your dreams, you don't shrink down, you weaponize your assets. You stand your ground, you embrace the absolute absurdity of your situation, and you rewrite the contract. So whatever hostile takeover you're facing today, don't just defend your peace. Ram your metaphorical luxury resort straight through their expectations. The entire Absolute Portal Resort groaned, a sound like $1 trillion credit card snapping in half. For a second, the gravity generators completely lost their minds, and Leo's fresh glass of sparkling cider hovered at a perfect 45-degree angle before splashing directly onto Chloe's already ruined designer shoes. She shrieked, but her complaints were instantly drowned out by the deafening roar of bedrock cracking open. The resort was literally tearing itself out of the Earth's crust. Sebastian! Leo yelled, tossing his empty glass aside and sprinting toward the glowing command console that had risen from the marble floor. It looked exactly like a high-end DJ mixing board, complete with neon sliders and a ridiculous amount of useless RGB lighting. Status report. How does a 5-star hotel handle in deep space combat? Sebastian flickered, his holographic tuxedo shifting from pristine black to a glowing, hazardous crimson red. He even spawned a little holographic eye patch, which was completely unnecessary but incredibly on-brand. Sir, the structural integrity of the mahogany paneling is holding. Thrusters are online, powered entirely by the Wi-Fi crystal currently lodged in our guest's digestive tract. However, aerodynamically speaking, we are flying a subterranean country club. We have the maneuverability of a wet brick. Good enough, Leo smirked, cracking his knuckles and grabbing the twin glowing joysticks on the console. I have 9,000 hours in flight simulators, and my latency is finally 0. Let's show these middle management space squids what happens when you interrupt my vacation. Outside the glass ceiling, the sky shattered completely. The resort blasted upward, bursting out of the ruined, neon magenta wasteland of the city and launching directly into the violet dimensional rift. The sheer G-force pinned Chloe and Sarah to the floor, their faces flapping in the wind like golden retrievers sticking their heads out of a car window. Mia, however, was strapped into a gold-plated ergonomic gaming chair in the center of the room, glowing like a human glow stick. Every time the resort accelerated, her stomach made a sound like a dial-up modem connecting to the Matrix. "Mia, keep digesting," Leo yelled over the roaring engines. "Chloe, Sarah, get to the cocktail bar. It's converted into the tactical weapons array." "The what?" Sarah screamed, crawling desperately toward the sleek marble counter. "The cocktail bar," Leo shouted back, frantically dodging a massive, glowing red laser beam fired by a corporate dreadnought that looked like a giant, floating stapler. Press the margarita blender button to deploy the heat-seeking caviar. Pull the draft beer tap for the plasma shields. Do not touch the espresso machine, it vents the oxygen. Chloe hauled herself up behind the bar, her eyes wild with pure survival adrenaline. She slammed her hand down on the margarita blender. Outside the resort, the hull opened up, and hundreds of thousands of hyperdense, explosive caviar pearls shot into the void. They tracked directly onto a squadron of liquidator fighter ships, detonating upon impact and turning the cosmic auditors into glittering stardust. "Take that, you tacky, pinstriped losers," Chloe screamed, aggressively pulling the draft beer tap. A shimmering golden shield wrapped around the resort, just in time to deflect a barrage of incoming energy missiles. "Not bad for a communications major," Leo called out, his hands flying across the console. He was completely in the zone. The resort spun, dipped, and barrel-rolled through the interdimensional crossfire. The massive, skyscraper-sized eye of the enemy flagship glared down at them, charging a cannon that looked capable of erasing entire timelines. "Sir, the board of directors is preparing to fire their main liquidation beam," Sebastian announced, calmly adjusting his holographic cuffs. "If it hits us, we will be legally and physically reduced to a tax write-off." "Not on my watch," Leo grunted, his eyes fixed on the massive eye. Sebastian bypassed the safety protocols on the Michelin star kitchen. "Give me the infinite room service protocol." "Sir, the caloric output of that maneuver is staggering. The truffle oil alone could collapse a small star system." "Do it." Leo slammed his fist onto a massive red button that literally said, "Do not press." Spicy. The entire resort shuddered. The front of the luxury bunker opened up like the jaws of a mythical beast. From the depths of the automated kitchens, a relentless, faster-than-light bombardment of weaponized culinary perfection was unleashed. Millions of solid gold serving cloches, scalding hot bowls of French onion soup, and hyper-accelerated roasted ducks blasted into the void. It was a culinary railgun. The bombardment slammed into the colossal eye. The corporate flagship couldn't handle the sheer, unfiltered luxury crashing against its hull. The golden serving cloches punctured the ship's armor, and the superheated soup melted their primary drives. With a deafening, reality-bending groan, the flagship imploded, bursting into a massive shockwave of violet light and shattered spreadsheets. The remaining corporate ships immediately retreated, blinking out of existence as they fled back to whatever boring, bureaucratic dimension they came from. The violent shaking stopped. The violet rift around them stabilized, fading into the calm, quiet blackness of deep space. Leo let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for an hour. He let go of the joysticks and slumped over the console. At the cocktail bar, Chloe and Sarah collapsed onto the floor, surrounded by flashing warning lights. Mia was slumped in the gaming chair, burping softly, which caused a tiny spark of blue Wi-Fi energy to shoot out of her mouth. Did we win?" Sarah whispered, staring up at the glass ceiling, which now showed the actual stars instead of the neon apocalypse. "Looks like it," Leo smirked, running a hand through his messy hair. "Sebastian, cancel the lockdown. And run me a hot bath. My back is killing me." But before Sebastian could respond, a shrill alarm blared through the foyer. A single, sleek escape pod, shiny, black and perfectly angular, had detached from the exploding flagship right before it died. It smashed through the resort's golden energy shield, shattered the reinforced glass ceiling, and crashed violently into the center of the marble floor, completely wiping out the remains of the dead subway worm. Leo froze. The girls scrambled backward, hiding behind the ruined cocktail bar. The escape pod hissed, steam pouring from its hydraulic doors as they slowly peeled open. Leo braced himself, expecting an alien warlord, a cosmic god of destruction, or a horrifying monster. Instead, a human stepped out. He was wearing a flawlessly tailored Armani suit, his hair slicked back perfectly. But his nose was bright red, and he was aggressively holding a silk handkerchief to his face. It was Brad, the captain of the college football team, the guy who, just days ago, had awakened the incredibly useless ability to set his own pants on fire every time he sneezed. But he wasn't wearing his college jersey anymore. He was wearing the glowing, holographic badge of the CEO of the Multiversal Zoning Commission. "Brad?" Leo asked, his voice cracking with pure disbelief. "How the hell are you the CEO of the multiverse?" Brad sniffled, glaring at Leo with cold corporate malice. "You have no idea how hard it is to climb the corporate ladder when you're constantly extinguishing your own slacks." "Leo," he said, his voice thick with congestion. "But I learned to weaponize it. I sneezed on the previous CEO, melted him into slag. Now I own all the real estate in this universe. And you're squatting." Brad inhaled deeply, his chest expanded. A terrifying, blindingly bright aura of nuclear plasma began to gather around his nose and mouth. He wasn't going to set his pants on fire this time. He was going to sneeze with the force of a dying sun and vaporize the entire resort. Leo just stared at the glowing jock, crossed his arms, and sighed. "Bless you," he muttered, as Brad threw his head back for the final, apocalyptic sneeze. Sometimes the universe throws you a curveball that makes absolutely zero sense. You spend all your time building your defenses, upgrading your life, and fighting off the obvious monsters, only to find out the final boss is a guy from your past with a terrible superpower and an Armani suit. But that's the reality of growth. The obstacles don't stop coming. They just change their outfits. You can't control what drops through your ceiling, but you can control how you stand there and face it. So whether you're dealing with giant mutant insects, hostile cosmic takeovers, or just the everyday grind of surviving your own challenges, don't forget to pack your fuzzy slippers, trust your own unique weirdness, and always be ready to weaponize your luxury. Brad inhaled. The sound was like a Boeing 747 engine trying to suck all the oxygen out of the room at once. The ambient temperature in the Absolute Portal Resort spiked instantly, peeling the imported, hand-painted wallpaper right off the walls and instantly evaporating the remaining puddles from the indoor wave pool. Brad was literally drawing in the raw, unfiltered ambient energy of the multiverse, his nostrils glowing with the terrifying, blinding light of a collapsing sun. The guy who used to shotgun energy drinks before 8 a.m. accounting classes had somehow weaponized his own allergies to overthrow a cosmic corporation. And now he was about to unleash a localized solar flare directly onto Leo's Persian rug. Chloe and Sarah were already huddled behind the ruined cocktail bar, frantically trying to write their last wills and testaments on soggy napkins. Mia was clutching her stomach, which was now flashing a frantic, error code red, syncing up terrifyingly well with the impending doom. "Sebastian!" Leo shouted, completely dropping his relaxed posture and scrambling to his feet. "If that jock sneezes nuclear plasma inside my lobby, the dry cleaning bill alone is going to bankrupt 3 different timelines. Initiate the absolute buffet sneeze guard, maximum thickness, and immediately pair it with the cryotherapy spa protocol. A brilliantly petty pairing, sir." Sebastian's hologram flickered, adjusting his digital bow tie with utter calm despite the blinding light radiating from Brad's face. Deploying the sneeze guard, dropping ambient temperature to absolute 0. Just as Brad's head snapped violently forward, unleashing a devastating, white-hot torrent of localized nuclear plasma straight out of his sinuses. The marble floor ripped open, a massive, curved sheet of indestructible, hyper-reinforced plexiglass. the exact, terrifyingly unyielding kind used to protect the potato salad at a mid-tier all-you-can-eat buffet shot up from the ground. At the exact same microsecond, emergency vents in the vaulted ceiling blasted a concentrated, hyper-pressurized stream of liquid nitrogen, originally designed for treating sore muscles after a deep-tissue hot stone massage. The nuclear sneeze slammed into the plexiglass, completely failing to breach the sacred, unyielding barrier of the buffet. The searing, apocalyptic plasma flattened out against the shield, and then the cryotherapy gas hit it head-on. The white-hot energy instantly snap-froze with a deafening, glass-shattering crack. The terrifying roar of the sneeze died in a millisecond. In its place stood a massive, jagged, violently glowing sculpture of frozen sneeze plasma, perfectly molded against the curved plexiglass shield. Brad stood there, blinking, his eyes watering. A literal frozen icicle was hanging from his nose. His flawlessly tailored Armani suit was covered in a thick, embarrassing layer of white frost, making him look less like a cosmic CEO and more like a guy who got locked in a commercial meat freezer. Leo slowly walked out from behind the command console, wrapping his silk robe tighter around himself against the sudden, biting chill in the air. He walked right up to the frozen plasma sculpture, tapped it twice with a perfectly manicured fingernail, and then looked at Brad with a mixture of pity and profound disgust. "Really, Brad? A sneeze?" Leo shook his head, his voice dripping with absolute, unfiltered disappointment. "You conquered the entire multiverse, seized the cosmic corporate ladder, became the absolute landlord of reality, and your ultimate finishing move is still just bad seasonal allergies? You didn't even bring a tissue, man. That's just incredibly unsanitary. You're lucky I didn't deploy the automated hand sanitizing turrets, because that was gross." Brad's teeth chattered violently, his entire tough guy CEO persona completely shattering under the sheer cold and the savage roast. Why you CC can't do this. I am the CCO. I own you. Not in my lobby, you're not," Leo said, turning his back on the shivering jock. He snapped his fingers without even looking back. Sebastian opened the trapdoor. "Send the CEO to the designated complaints department." "With pleasure, sir." "Mind the step, Mr. Chief Executive." The floor beneath Brad simply vanished. With a pathetic, frozen squeak, the ultimate cosmic boss plummeted down a sleek, stainless steel chute that led directly to the resort's underground, automated composting facility. A highly satisfying, hollow thump echoed up a few seconds later. Chloe and Sarah slowly peeked over the marble bar, their eyes wide. Is it actually over?" Sarah squeaked, hugging her ruined designer purse to her chest. "Yeah, the audit is officially closed," Leo sighed, turning to look at the massive, jagged, glowing hole in his ceiling where the starry sky used to be. "Though I'm definitely going to have to leave a terrible 1-star Yelp review for whoever handles multiversal customer service. This place is a wreck." But the universe, holding true to its absolute refusal to let Leo have a peaceful afternoon, wasn't quite done. Before anyone could even think about relaxing, Mia let out a loud, highly unnatural burp. The blue light in her stomach shifted from a steady, calming glow to a frantic, strobing violet. The massive sculpture of frozen nuclear plasma stuck to the sneeze guard suddenly began to hum, vibrating violently and resonating perfectly with the rare Wi-Fi crystal digesting inside her. Leo?" Mia stammered, her feet lifting 2 inches off the ground as her hair defied gravity. "I think my stomach is buffering again." Sebastian's hologram materialized, completely frantic, red warning triangles popping up all around his digital head. "Sir, the localized plasma freeze has created an inverted thermal-chronological feedback loop with the crystal inside our guest. The resort's subwarp foundation engines are severely overloading. We are experiencing a catastrophic spatial drag." "In English, Sebastian," Leo yelled, diving to grab the edge of the DJ booth command console as the entire resort began to tilt and spin wildly out of control. "We are being sucked down a multiversal drainpipe, sir. We are plummeting entirely out of this reality." The shattered sky above them turned into a blinding, horrifying tunnel of swirling, kaleidoscopic colors. The extreme G-force slammed everyone to the floor. The mahogany walls groaned in agony. The remaining crystal chandeliers rattled like they were going to explode, and the indoor wave pool sloshed violently out of its boundaries, flooding the gaming lounge. Leo clung to his console, his bathrobe flapping wildly, while Chloe and Sarah screamed at the top of their lungs, holding on to each other for dear life as the laws of physics completely broke down. They were falling through the absolute fabric of reality, a 5-star luxury hotel hurtling like a rogue meteor through the dark, chaotic spaces between dimensions. The noise was unbearable, a screeching, tearing sound of dimensions folding over themselves, the pressure building until it felt like the entire resort was going to be crushed into a diamond. And then, suddenly, crash, the resort slammed into something incredibly solid. The impact sent a massive shockwave through the building, instantly shattering the frozen plasma sculpture into glowing dust and knocking the main power grid offline for 3 terrifying, pitch-black seconds. Emergency backup lights flickered on, bathing the ruined, waterlogged foyer in a soft, ambient amber glow. The classical jazz music system rebooted, automatically resuming a very low, polite saxophone solo. Silence. Absolute, ringing silence. Leo groaned, peeling himself off the wet marble floor. His back popped loudly, reminding him that he desperately needed to use the massage chairs. He looked around. Mia was curled up in a ball, groaning about her interdimensional indigestion, while Chloe and Sarah were hyperventilating near the bar, looking like they had just survived a spin cycle in a washing machine. Sebastian, Leo coughed, waving away the settling dust. Where are we? Did we land back on Earth? The AI flickered into view, adjusting his monocle. Calculating, sir. GPS offline. Standard multiversal coordinates offline. I cannot accurately determine our location. However, exterior optical sensors are coming online now. The massive, heavily dented double doors at the front of the foyer hissed, their heavy hydraulic locks disengaging. They slowly, dramatically slid open, revealing the brand new world outside. It wasn't the neon magenta, mutant chihuahua-infested apocalypse of Earth. It wasn't the cold, bureaucratic, pinstriped void of the liquidators. It was a sprawling, endless, perfectly manicured golf course, stretching out as far as the eye could see under a sky of blinding, impossible, shimmering gold. And standing right at the edge of the perfectly trimmed putting green, staring directly into Leo's ruined foyer, was an army of 12-foot-tall, heavily armored, aggressively muscular centaurs holding glowing, oversized titanium golf clubs. Above them, massive, fiery text burned itself into the golden sky. Tutorial complete. Welcome to ranked competitive survival. Leo just stared at the centaurs. He looked down at his dirty, wet fuzzy slippers, then looked back up at the heavily armed half-horse golf warriors ready to tee off on his front porch. He let out a long, deeply exhausted sigh, reaching into his pocket for a piece of lint. Sebastian, Leo muttered, his voice deadpan. Tell the automated kitchen to start brewing the strongest, darkest espresso they have. We're going to be here a while. Sebastian materialized instantly, floating over the ruined, waterlogged marble of the foyer. In one hand, he held a delicate, gold-rimmed porcelain cup resting on a saucer. Your espresso, sir. Single origin, dark roast, brewed with absolute spite. Leo took the tiny cup, sipping it slowly as he stared out the shattered glass ceiling at the golden sky and the army of 12-foot-tall centaurs. They weren't just terrifying mythological beasts. The universe, staying completely on brand with its terrible sense of humor, had dressed them for the occasion. Every single one of these massive, muscular horsemen was wearing a pastel argyle sweater vest, perfectly tailored khaki slacks over their hind legs, and a visor hat. They were half warrior, half finance bro, and they looked incredibly annoyed that a 5-star resort had just crash-landed directly onto their pristine fairway. Look at them, Chloe whispered, peering over the edge of the bar, shivering in her soaked designer jacket. Are they going to eat us? Worse, Leo muttered, taking another sip of espresso. They're going to ask us about our stock portfolios. Sebastian analyzed their weaponry. "Scanning, sir," the AI replied, adjusting his glowing monocle. "Those are not standard golf clubs. The shafts are forged from collapsed dwarf stars, and the club heads are concentrated gravity hammers. Furthermore, the balls they are currently teeing up appear to be highly unstable, condensed micrometeors. I estimate a single drive will hit us with the force of a small tactical nuke." Right on cue, the lead centaur, who was wearing a sickeningly bright salmon-colored polo, stepped up to the edge of the green. He placed a glowing, crackling orb onto a giant wooden tee, took a couple of practice swings that literally tore the sound barrier to shreds, and then locked eyes with Leo's resort. "4!" the centaur bellowed. The sound was like a hurricane ripping through a canyon. He swung. The titanium club connected with the micrometeor, and the orb shot across the golden sky at Mach 10, leaving a trail of burning ozone behind it. "Shields!" Leo screamed, slamming his espresso cup onto the console and grabbing the joysticks. "Rerouting all power from the heated towel racks, sir," Sebastian chimed. A shimmering golden barrier flared to life around the resort just a millisecond before the meteor hit. The impact was deafening. The entire Absolute Portal resort shuddered violently, sliding backward through the dirt and tearing a massive, ugly trench into the pristine cosmic golf course. The golden shield crackled, fracturing like safety glass before barely holding together. Sarah shrieked, covering her head as the marble floor buckled. Mia, who was still strapped into her gaming chair, let out a panicked hiccup, causing the Wi-Fi crystal in her stomach to pulse a frantic, strobe light blue. "They're playing through," Leo yelled, watching as 3 more centaurs stepped up to the tee, pulling glowing meteors out of their plaid golf bags. "We can't just sit here and take this. Sebastian, deploy the resort's automated driving range. I want every single platinum golf ball we have loaded into the ball return cannons and fired at maximum velocity. An aggressive counterswing, sir." "I love it," Sebastian smirked. The front facade of the resort morphed. The grand balconies and luxury viewing decks slid away, revealing rows of high-powered, automated pneumatic cannons originally designed to softly lob golf balls for high-paying guests. But Leo had completely bypassed the safety limiters. With a mechanical roar, the resort fired back. Thousands of solid platinum golf balls launched out of the building like a metallic hailstorm. They crossed the sky in a blinding silver wave, slamming into the centaur's ranks. The impact wasn't enough to kill the massive beasts, but it was incredibly annoying. Platinum balls bounced off their armored chests, shattered their visors, and ruined their perfectly combed hair. "My Argyle!" One of the centaurs roared in pure agony as a platinum ball ripped right through his pastel sweater vest. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to find a tailor who can fit a horse torso?" "We're holding them back," Chloe cheered, suddenly finding her courage and standing up from behind the bar. "Take that, you oversized ponies." "Don't celebrate yet," Leo growled, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "Look at the clubhouse." Looming in the distance, casting a massive shadow over the golden hills, was an unbelievably huge country club. It was carved entirely out of white marble and floating crystals. The heavy mahogany doors of the clubhouse slowly opened, and the centaurs immediately stopped firing. They parted down the middle, bowing their heads in deep, terrified respect. Stepping out onto the fairway was the Grand Marshal of the Cosmic Lynx. He wasn't a centaur. He was a humanoid figure towering 40 feet high, wearing a bespoke, blindingly white tuxedo that radiated pure, suffocating authority. His face was hidden behind a smooth, golden golf mask, and in his hands, he held a putter that looked like it was forged from the spine of a dead god. "You have incurred a penalty stroke," the Grand Marshal's voice boomed, completely bypassing their ears and vibrating directly inside their skulls. "You have damaged the fairway. You have assaulted the caddies. And your attire is in strict violation of the club's dress code." The giant slowly turned his golden mask toward Leo, who was still standing in his soaked, fluffy bathrobe and fuzzy slippers. "I'm on vacation," Leo yelled back, leaning out of the shattered glass ceiling. "And your caddies started it." The Grand Marshal didn't argue. He simply raised his god-tier putter and pointed it directly at the resort. This sector operates on ranked sudden death. I challenge the manager of this unauthorized establishment to a single putt. If you sink the shot, your sanctuary remains. If you miss, your resort is liquefied, and you will spend the rest of eternity scrubbing the sand traps. Leo froze. He looked down at his hands. Sebastian, he whispered, breaking out into a cold sweat. I don't play golf. I played Mario Golf once in middle school, and I threw the controller at my television. A mathematically poor matchup, sir, Sebastian replied, wincing. I have to take the shot or he's going to erase the building, Leo muttered, his mind racing. Bring me a club. The most ridiculous, overpowered, completely unfair club we have in the VIP vault. Deploying the flamingo mallet, sir. Forged from the core of a collapsed casino. A glowing pedestal rose from the floor, presenting a golf club that looked absolutely absurd. It was neon pink, shaped vaguely like a flamingo, and hummed with raw, chaotic energy. Leo grabbed it, the weight of the weapon grounding him. He stepped over the ruined marble, walking right up to the edge of his shattered foyer, standing face-to-toe with the 40-foot giant. A glowing, ethereal golf hole materialized exactly 100 yards away, sitting perfectly between Leo and the Grand Marshal. In front of Leo, a golf ball appeared. But it wasn't a normal ball. It was pulsing, shifting colors, and humming with a strange, organic heartbeat. Leo took his stance. He gripped the flamingo mallet. He pulled his arms back, praying to whatever gaming gods were watching that his hand-eye coordination was up to the task. But as he brought the club down for the swing, Mia screamed. She didn't just scream. She levitated. The Wi-Fi crystal inside her stomach went completely critical, glowing so bright that it eclipsed the golden sky. The cosmic golf ball on the tee responded, vibrating violently as if answering a call. Leo tried to stop his swing, but the momentum was already there. Wait! He yelled. The flamingo mallet struck the ball, but it didn't fly toward the hole. The impact cracked the ball wide open. It wasn't a ball. It was an egg. A blinding flash of dark, corrupted light exploded from the tee. The sheer force of it knocked Leo backward, sending him crashing into the cocktail bar alongside Chloe and Sarah. The Grand Marshal took a step back, raising his massive putter in defense as a localized black hole tore open directly on the fairway. From inside the cracked egg, something massive, scaled, and dripping with multiversal sludge began to uncoil itself. A third faction had just entered the chat, and it was feeding directly off the Wi-Fi crystal in Mia's stomach. The monster slowly raised a head that looked like a terrifying fusion of a dragon and a malfunctioning satellite dish, letting out a screech that shattered every remaining piece of glass in the absolute portal resort. Leo slowly sat up, rubbing his jaw, staring at the unimaginable cosmic horror currently hatching on the 18th hole. He looked down at his flamingo mallet, then up at the terrified face of the 40-foot Grand Marshal. Sebastian, Leo whispered, a manic, exhausted smile creeping across his face. Cancel my 3 p.m. massage. We're going to need a bigger club. Man, what a place to cut it off. We're going to leave Leo right there, mid-swing, staring down a cosmic, Wi-Fi eating dragon hatching out of a golf egg right in the middle of an interdimensional country club. The stakes have never been higher. His slippers have never been wetter. And the absolute chaos is only going to get crazier from here. That's the end of the story for today, but before you head out, do the thing what most of the people don't like. Subscribing me.